This is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards. Enter a world filled with aliens, devils, and other gruesome creatures as author Alan McDaniels brings nightmares to life on the pages of the 11th Hour, 11 Tales of Terror. Happy to have Alan McDaniels join me now here on Speaking of Writers. Alan, welcome to this program. All right, so what led you to this book, The 11th Hour, 11 Tales of Terror?
For years, I've suffered with issues, mental health issues, and night terrors were something I battled severely. And couldn't get them out of my head. And my wife, who I have been fortunate enough to be with for almost 5 years now, suggested to me one day that I start writing them down. And it worked. And she asked me to give them a beginning and an end. And the next thing I know, I had the manuscript for a book out.
How did you narrow it down to these 11?
Well, I picked some of the ones that stood out to me most, and I really enjoyed the beginning and the end to them, and I enjoyed the story I had created. I was looking for a title for the story, and working late, it was about 11 o'clock at night, and it just kind of hit. It was the 11th hour, so I wanted to have a matching 11 stories.
We're chatting with Alan McDaniels. His book is The 11th Hour, 11 Tales of Terror. By the way, it's available at writersrepublic.com, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble, too. You had these dreams, and these stories came to you, and then you started writing them down. How did you then craft them into the short stories?
Well, at the time, it was really a hobby, therapy, if you will. So when my wife had suggested, giving them a beginning and an end, it was more of a just see what you can do. And so I looked at, the main monsters or whatever threat there was in the story, and I started to think of, okay, what would happen if I put some people up against this? And the next thing I know, each one was able to have been weaved into a little story.
Alan, has writing these short stories helped you?
Extremely. If I could get anything out there to the world, it would be my methods. While they might not work for everybody, they have worked for me. And I know that millions of Americans are suffering with mental health issues, and I encourage everyone to find coping mechanisms.
So this has been a really good coping mechanism for you.
Yes, sir.
Now, I was reading, too, that you have countless nightmares and hundreds of stories yet to be published.
Yes, sir. I've got a lot more on the back burner if I choose to do a second one.
So the writing is coming pretty easy to you right now.
Yes, sir.
What is your method when you do write? Is it basically an outline format and then you put it into the story? Or do you sit down and write it all out?
Typically what I'll do is I'll write the dream out as it happened. And as you can imagine, I usually do this late at night, cause I'll be up and it's still fresh. I'll write it all down, and then, I'll let it fester for a day or two, and I'll revisit it. And, if I think it's something that I could do a little magic with, I'll try to add some structure to it. Add a few characters, and we'll see where it goes.
What was the feeling like when you got the book published?
Unreal.
Did you ever think you'd write and publish a book?
I've always enjoyed writing, but no.
And did you always know that you were a pretty good storyteller?
I'm all right. I'm fair. I'm no Stephen King.
What's been the feedback from your family and friends?
They're very impressed and proud, and of course, that I don't like being put on a pedestal, so I'm just like, stop.
Do you have a favorite story, one or two, in this book?
Yes. The prison stands out to me a lot because that was a reoccurring nightmare, and that was actually the trial piece to see if we can make something out of it. So that one means a lot to me, and my demon's name is Barnum is another one that I very much favor.
Alan, how often does it happen that you have reoccurring nightmares?
At least a couple times a week.
We're chatting with Alan McDaniels here on Speaking of Writers. His book is The 11th Hour, 11 Tales of Terror. It's available at writersrepublic.com, Amazon.com, and also barnesandnoble.com. What would you like readers to take away from this book?
Do not let anything you're going through define you. You are more powerful than what you face, and you can turn it into whatever you wish.
You also said, too, you want to teach those struggling, as you have, that we are not a slave bound by our illness nor problems, and we can use them to our benefit. Explain that a little bit.
Well, with me, I'd almost given up hope. Tried different therapies, medications, and while sometimes I'd be blessed and have a few weeks without a nightmare, sure enough, they'd always come back. And it's not fun because some of them would be extremely severe, like I had said, night terrors. And honestly, my biggest thing is it's not so much about the book, it's about that it really did help. And I know this isn't a self-help book, but a message remains.
Do you set a goal to write a story a day?
No. I don't want to apply pressure to it and take any fun out of it I might have. I think it'll happen organically when it's supposed to happen.
We're chatting with Alan McDaniels. The new book is The 11th Hour, 11 Tales of Terror. So are you working on another book with all those stories you have?
Yes, sir. I am actually. Mind of Malice.
And this book, The 11th Hour, 11 Tales of Terror, is available at writersrepublic.com, Amazon, and also Barnes & Noble as well. Again, Alan McDaniels is the author. The book is The 11th Hour, 11 Tales of Terror. It's available now, writersrepublic.com, Amazon.com, and also at Barnes & Noble. Well, The 11th Hour, 11 Tales of Terror. Alan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, sir.
And this is Speaking of Writers.